Welcome to the Disaster Relief Operation Call Agent Training.
What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what it takes to be a call agent on a disaster relief operation. Some of you may have extensive experience with the Red Cross. Some of you may actually have already taken calls. Some of you may have worked in a call center or a phone bank before for the Red Cross, but what we're doing for this operation is a little bit different. And the reason I say that is this is actually the first time ever in Red Cross history that we are running a remote disaster call center. And what this means, we have some folks who are remote caseworkers, so you have an idea of what working remotely is like. But we're going to talk about some of the benefits of that. We're going to talk about some of the challenges, because there are some ups and downs. But at the end of the day, the reason that we did this is due to cost savings, due to our advancements in technology, due to the desire to utilize, train, engage volunteers all over the country. So right now, today, we have volunteers from, we have about 30 different volunteers currently assigned to this call center, and they're all over the country. It's you guys, it's your friends, it's people who are working from home, people who are going into the chapter building, people who are doing it from work. We have folks who are volunteering an hour in there, an hour here, an hour there. We have folks who are volunteering and they're doing 8-hour shifts every day. We've got folks who are driving around the country in RVs, and when they get to a new spot, they're setting up camp and they're taking calls. We have folks who are doing this on laptops, on big desktops, who are building their own command centers. It's pretty cool to see. And so what we're going to talk about is what makes a successful call agent, how to get you squared away to take calls. And our objective at the end of this training is for you to feel calm, cool, collected, comfortable, confident about taking calls, about using the technology systems that we have, and most importantly, about helping our clients. At the end of the day, we're picking up phones and we're talking to people. And when all other things get in the way, I really want you all to remember that at the end of the day, we're just having conversations with folks. And you all know how to do that very well. And so some things can be a little bit chaotic sometimes, but what we want to do is we really want to focus on the basics, and that really is, as I said, helping our clients. So with that, let's dive in a little bit. What we're going to do is we've got our systems used for the call center. We've got the call types. We've got how to set up for your shift, how to answer calls. We're going to walk through all of these different things. So welcome to the California Wildfires team. And I mentioned our purpose of the training. At the end of this, we want to equip you to answer calls. We want you to be able to capture relevant information. And that's really important. Every single call should be captured in the call log. And we also are going to provide you with resources and referrals. And you really are the voice of the Red Cross. You're a critical member of the operation. And I think even more importantly, you're the first person that most of these clients are going to talk to. So you really are maybe not the face, but you're the voice of the Red Cross. And to that client, you may be the face. So when we answer calls, our goal is to answer the hotline in a polite manner, demonstrating empathy. We want to determine the needs of the caller to direct to appropriate resources. When transferring a call, you want to make contact with the third party before making the transfer, and then make sure that both parties have contact information in case the call gets dropped. You also want to clearly capture all required information from the caller and ensure that information is entered appropriately into SharePoint immediately. That really is important. We have folks on the ground who are looking at this information in real time. We've got medical folks, we've got caseworkers, we've got operations, bulk distribution, feeding, sheltering folks who are looking at this. And so ensuring that we get information entered quickly and efficiently is very important. We've got our introductory script, and from there, we then determine the type of the call and how we're going to be able to help the person. Pick up the call as soon as possible when you see your phone ring. You're going to see a 10-digit number. It's not going to say Train Sarah, it's not going to say call center, it's not going to say Red Cross client. It's just going to be a 10-digit number, probably from California. Your job is you answer the phone and you say American Red Cross. This is put in your name. So American Red Cross, this is Luke. can I please have your first and last name? The caller will respond and say, thank you. Can I please have your phone number in case we get disconnected? Starting with the area code. When a caller calls, you have about 30 seconds to control the call. And with that, what you can do is you can get them to say just about anything. And so with that, we want to capture the most important information. So pick up a call as soon as possible. American Red Cross, this is Luke. Can I please have your first and last name? The person responds, thank you. Can I please have your phone number, starting with the area code, in case we get disconnected? The person will respond and say, thank you. Can I please have your zip code? The person will respond and give you your zip code. If you're able to see the phone number of the caller through Transera, you can verify it that way, but you want name, phone number, zip code. Then, thank you. How can I help you today? At that point, you've now released the caller, and they are going to talk about whatever they need to talk about. They might go into a long monologue. They may want to read you a passage from a book. They may be a preacher. We've had those calls, and they're trying to convert you. They may be trying to offer their services. They may need help. They may have questions. They may be confused. They may be crying. And so from there, that's where we start to triage the call. We have some major types of calls. So our call types, we have needs assistance. We have financial and in-kind donations. We have people who want to volunteer. We have information and referral calls, and we have reunification calls. The two things you see in red, we have people who may need interpretation services, and we may have crisis or suicidal callers. The interpretation needs and the suicidal callers are very, very rare, but we want you to be prepared just in case you happen to get a call like that. So we're going to start with needs assistance. The caller might say, I lost my house in the disaster and I need assistance. And that's where you say, I'm sorry to hear of your loss. This is the first time you're speaking with the Red Cross since the fire. These scripts that we have here, you don't have to follow them word for word. These are guides. The most important thing when you're on the phone with someone is to be yourself and to act naturally. So do what is best and easiest for you. But we've written out some scripts that we think might be helpful to help guide you. From there, if someone needs assistance, your objective is to gather as much information as possible into the SharePoint call log. The SharePoint call log, which we'll talk about later, is built around the caller who needs assistance. That's where we need to know the level of damage to their home, how many people in the house, what is it that they need, what are their specific needs, things like that. We also want to try and provide the caller with local resources if we can. On top of that, those local resources may be something that we find in 211. 211 is an information referral service. We may also find information on our SharePoint wiki page, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. For financial donations, with this script, and you can take time on your own to read through this, but with this script, it basically says you can go online to donate. You can also mail a check. They could also go to 1-800-RED-CROSS and basically enter the donation option when they call. But we do prefer that they actually go online or mail the check. It is a little bit easier. It's a little bit more secure for them. In-kind donations. They want to donate food, goods, small things. They've rented a U-Haul truck and they want to drive it all over to the fairgrounds. For us, we're not currently taking goods and in-kind donations for this disaster. There are a lot of partner organizations that are accepting them. And all of that contact information is located on the SharePoint wiki page. If somebody wants to donate items in bulk, or they want to make a large donation of supplies, that's something we may be able to take. You won't be able to know on the phone right then and there if we can accept that donation. But what you want to do is get their information, get their name, their phone number, what it is they're donating, when it's available, how they can donate it. Get that information, and we'll pass it on to our donations team. You don't need to worry about that, but it will get to the team. Now let's talk about volunteers. If someone is brand new and they want to volunteer, we're not using spontaneous volunteers on this fire in this sense. There are some folks who show up at the fairgrounds, and there are some uses for them, where some jobs they can perform. But for folks who are calling in, we don't want to have 1,000 people show up because there isn't a need. Plus, it presents a security risk. Plus, it also is a large strain on resources, because at that point they become a client because they need food and water and shelter just like everybody else. For this one, we're encouraging folks to go to redcross.org and sign up to become a volunteer. If someone is already a volunteer, we're about to see some burnout. Folks have been on the operation for a long time. They're working long hours. It's tough. Encourage them to go to their local chapter or contact their local volunteer engagement or recruitment person and get their information up to date. Maybe take a training and get them ready to rock and roll so that they can help support this operation. Information and referral. Many of the calls that you receive are going to be from callers who want to know simple information. If they want to know about any Red Cross services, ask if they've been affected by the disaster. If they answer yes, then you can proceed to capture their needs. A lot of people may say, "Where's the shelter?" And you ask, "Well, are you in need of shelter?" And they say, "Yeah, I lost my home." We now have a client. So we can very quickly go from information or referral to someone who needs assistance. Your best resource for information or referral calls will be the wiki page as well as the incident action plan. And those two links there on the PowerPoint deck are hot, they're clickable, and those will take you to those links. Beyond those two resources, using the internet for Google searches and using your brain are your best other assets. Always think and use your brain, never hurts. Information referral calls are going to require you to troubleshoot and think critically on your feet. If you can't directly help a caller, and it does happen, it's happened to me, I know folks that it's happened to on this call, don't worry about it. Your goal is to be that bright spot of the person's day, put a smile on their face, and have them walk away feeling a little bit better than they did when they called. People never forget how you make them feel, and at the end of the day, someone's going to say, "Well, maybe the Red Cross didn't provide this service, but man, they were nice, or they were helpful, or they were kind, or they were friendly." And that's really what we want folks to walk away with if we can't do anything else for them. Reunification is another big one. These call types are much more frequent early on in the disaster, but we want to understand, so you're looking for someone. Does the person have any serious health or mental conditions? We've got some examples of those things, but basically if they've got a health condition, someone's worried about them, we want to make sure we prioritize that request. So if the answer is yes, then we have an emergency welfare request. With these steps, there's an emergency welfare inquiry form. What we've done is we've actually built that welfare inquiry form into the SharePoint site. So if you capture information about that person and the person they're looking for in the SharePoint call log, that's enough information for what we need to perform an emergency welfare inquiry. If they don't have an emergency welfare inquiry, we can encourage them to go to Safe and Well, or we can even, if someone wants to register themselves, we could register them. If someone is looking for someone, we can do and perform the search for them if that person does not have access to the internet. When you go into the call log, you want to fill out the information of the person who's calling, and then in the narrative section, fill out information for the person for whom they are looking, or the searchee as opposed to the searcher. We can perform lookups in Safe and Well, and we can also enter people into Safe and Well. It's redcross.org/Safe and Well. Interpretation needs. Every once in a while, you will get a caller who doesn't speak English. Usually you can try and figure out and understand which language they do speak. Most of the callers we get here will be Spanish speakers, if you happen to get any. We have an interpretation line. So the way that this works is think a three-way call. So it's going to be you, the interpreter, and the caller. So before even trying the interpretation line, make sure, 100%, make sure you've got that client's phone number in case you get disconnected. The first time you try this, it might work great. It might be smooth and easy for you. You might have some problems. Here's how it works. What you have to do is you have to conference your caller, the client, with the interpretation line. So what you're going to do is you're going to dial the number 877-556-6594, and it'll ask for a PIN. You can enter that on your phone. You want to dial the 877 number through Transera, because that's how you make the call. You enter the PIN on your phone. And what you do is the The interpretation service will ask for your first and last name to be connected with an interpreter after you press the appropriate number for the appropriate language. It's 1 for Spanish and 2 for all other languages. So if you get a Spanish caller, you may not speak Spanish, but we've got a little Spanish in here for you, which you can say, un momento, por favor, tengo que buscar un intérprete. So if your Spanish accent isn't the best, this is pretty easy to say. You could say, un momento, por favor, tengo que buscar un intérprete. And somebody will understand that, and it's 1 minute, please. I have to find an interpreter. When you merge the calls, you will be on the phone with an interpreter, and the interpreter will only say what you say. As soon as they come on board, the interpreter knows exactly, they actually have no idea who you are, but they know exactly what to do, which is they will just interpret. So you can say, this is Luke from the American Red Cross. I have an interpreter on the phone. The interpreter will say, this is Luke from the American Red Cross. I am the interpreter. And you say, can I please have your first and last name? Interpreter will say, can I please have your first and last name in the appropriate language? The client will then respond. The interpreter will then tell you, the name is Maria Lopez. The name is John Smith. The name is whatever. And so you go back and forth with the interpreter. The call will take a little bit longer because everything has to be translated, but it works very, very well. All right, let's go to a suicidal caller here. So the most important thing with this, and some people refer to these as crisis calls. I think they're all crisis calls, but some people refer to these as crisis calls or suicide calls. The important thing to remember is to be yourself and to be sympathetic. Don't worry about saying everything exactly correct. If you're concerned, and it will show, and I don't care how many times you've heard these calls, you will be concerned for this person. Your voice and your manner and how you talk will show that. Let the person unload their despair or ventilate anger. Just listen to them. Even if you give them an opportunity to listen, you do nothing else. If you listen, they'll feel better by the end of the call. Being sympathetic. We've all been in tough spots before, some much tougher than others. Our job is not to judge. Our job is to be patient, to be calm, and to be accepting. The person has done the right thing with getting in touch with us. We can help them to breathe, encourage them to take long and slow and deep breaths. If the person's saying, I'm so depressed, I can't go on, you want to understand what they mean by that. They may mean that they can't keep walking, or they're tired of driving, or they're tired of moving from house to house, or they may be thinking about taking their own life. And it's really important to ask them, are you having thoughts of suicide? It can be a hard thing to say. You're not putting ideas into their head, but you're understanding where they are. And if the answer is yes to them having thoughts of suicide, you want to begin a further series of questions. We want to understand if the person has thought through this at all. Do they have a plan? Do they have means? And do they have a time set? If any of those things are yes, then this person might very well be on the edge. If they're a veteran, there is a veterans crisis line. A lot of our suicidal callers or crisis callers that we get are veterans. We've got information for that. But there is a suicide prevention lifeline. It's available 24/7, and that's a resource that you can have and use and give the person and transfer them to. You want to avoid arguing with the person, trying to problem solve, or giving them advice. If the person's taking drugs, try and find out what those drugs are, because that way we can get that information to poison control. Reach out to a dispatch partner. If you've got a call like that, shoot me an email, send me a text, give me a call, conference me in. I have a whole dispatch team here. We've all handled these kinds of calls. We are a great resource for you, and we're here to support you for that. And you may very well be sitting alone. So continue to talk to the person and get that person's permission to see if you can bring someone else into the conversation. Sometimes the caller may be concerned about someone else who is suicidal. And our goal there, again, is to listen. And that person is doing the right thing by taking the situation seriously and reaching out to us and looking for help. You're also going to get people who may not be suicidal. You may get people who are experiencing domestic violence or abuse. You may have people who are running from someone and scared for their life. This is a similar kind of process, which we take very seriously. Our job here is to listen, and our job is to be compassionate. And then once we work our way through that call, we want to get that person assistance just as quick as we can. So with that, we'll talk about how we label calls urgent and priorities and how we follow up on things. But we'll talk you through that in a second. Most of you most of you will not have to do this at all. And that goes for interpretation as well as for suicidal or crisis callers. But we give you this as a resource just in case it does happen. When a person calls in, they're going to want to understand how long until they hear back or how long until their question or problem is solved. Our goal is to be able to help them with everything on the phone if possible. If someone has a question about a service center, about a shelter, or about bulk distribution, or the services the Red Cross provides, or can I bring my pet to the shelter, those kinds of things. Our goal is to be able to answer those questions on the phone. However, if we capture information and we aren't able to answer all of those questions from the caller, what we can say is someone will be back in touch with you as soon as possible. And if they want to have a very specific time, then what we say is we have thousands of people who are calling in and clients and people who need assistance. We have hundreds of volunteers on the ground, and they are working as quickly as possible to get to everyone. I'm sorry I can't give you a specific callback time, but rest assured it will be just as soon as possible. Systems for the call center. We have two major systems. One is called Transera. One is called SharePoint. Transera is a system that's used to receive and deliver all phone calls that are directed to the hotline. Transera allows a call agent to manage calls, and it allows our call center management team to monitor, record, and produce historical and real-time reports with call data. And we're doing all of this to better support our clients, and plus it allows you to support the operation remotely. And that's the biggest value add that Transera has, and this is why we are using it. Transera allows you to do this from home. Otherwise, you would have to be physically deployed to the DRO for a 2 or 3 week period. Although Transera might be a little confusing, this training is going to help walk you through how we can make it just a little bit smoother. And once you get through the first 1 or 2 calls, it actually gets pretty easy. To access Transera, the link is here shared on my screen. It's https://agent, AGENT, transerainc, TRANSERAINC.net, NET. That is https://agent.transerainc.net.
Materials needed for Transera. You will need a 10-digit phone number with good, clear reception. That could be a cell phone, a desk phone, or a house phone. You must have a computer with internet. You must also have an internet browser. That must be Firefox, Internet Explorer version 11, or Safari. You also see 2 red boxes. Those are links to be able to go and download Firefox or Internet Explorer 11. Before going any further, make sure you have Firefox or Internet Explorer or Safari downloaded on your computer.
Getting to Transera, when you go to https://agent.transerainc.net, you will get a page that has 1, 2, 3 button and launch. You want to click launch. Then it's going to bring a pop-up up on your screen, and we call this an applet. And the applet has a space to enter a username, a password, and your enterprise. Your username is usually going to be your full first dot last name. So my username is luke.beckman, lowercase. My password by default is welcome1, lowercase. WELCOME, number 1. My enterprise is all caps, ARCRCE. American Red Cross. I don't know what RCE stands for, but Romeo, Charlie, Echo. Once you put in those three things, go ahead and click Next. If you can then see a screen that says DN, congratulations, Transera works on your computer. DN is your dial number. That's the number you want Transera to call you on when you're part of the call center. So that's my cell phone. That's my house phone. That's my desk phone. It's the full 10 digits of that phone number. You want to make sure your format says US format and that your team says DRO. And you shouldn't have to click either of those things. Format and team are automatic. Once you put in your DN, click Go. With Transera, there's a bunch of different things you can do. So first we're going to talk about receiving calls. When you first log on to Transera, it's going to tell you up at the top center, it's going to tell you idle. Down below, there's a button that says Go Available. When you click Go Available, that means you can now receive phone calls. The way that Transera works, think of a gate agent. You get a whole bunch of calls lining up ready to go somewhere. The gate agent's going to say, who has been sitting available the longest? Meaning, which of my call agents really needs to get a call? Who's getting bored? Transera then sends that first call to the person who's been sitting available the longest. The next call goes to the next longest available person, and so on. So, if you are working and you constantly switch between idle, available, because you're going and running and doing some things, you may not get calls because you haven't been available the longest. When you're available, it means that a call can come in. So at that point, you need to be at the computer, you need to be ready to answer the phone and ready to go, ready to work. Because a call could come in at any time. As a call comes in, the first thing that's going to happen is Transera is going to change from available to reserved as the status. You're going to see a screen with a bunch of numbers and paths and IDs on it, and that ANI is for, in this case, this 10-digit number ANI. That's basically the phone number of the person who's calling. So you usually will be able to go look at your phone and see the caller ID. So your caller ID is going to match that ANI, so you know that it's a Transera call, because you could be getting a call from your friend Bob or Susan or Mary. And it's important, if one of your friends calls and you don't see your Transera status change from available to reserved, it means that's just, that's a friend. That's not that's not a call from the call center. So if your friend calls, what you need to make sure you do is change your status from available back to idle so that you don't get a call center call while you're already on the phone. Once you answer the phone, and you answer the phone like you answer any other phone call, you slide the slider on your iPhone, you just pick up the house phone, whatever it is. As soon as you pick up an answer, Transera changes to a connected state. There's a space in Transera. Remember, we ask for the name, the phone number, and the zip code. First things we ask for. There's a space in Transera where you enter in the zip code of the caller. This helps us triage, tag, and troubleshoot where calls are coming in from. You don't have to click anything. You just type in the zip code 22207 12345. You don't have to hit enter. You don't have to do anything. Just put it in. Transera will capture that information at the end of your call. When you're connected to a call, down at the bottom of your Transera applet, there's some buttons. If the button is gray, you can't click it. If it has a color to it, you can click it. Those buttons are going to say things like conference, transfer, consult, hold, resume, or end call. That's how you manage the call. You don't do it through your phone. Once you're on the phone, you just talk into the phone. If you need to do something with Transera, you do it in the applet. When you hang up a call, you hang up on your phone, just like normal. As soon as you hang up the call, you go into a wrap-up state. Transera is going to ask you, what kind of call was this? So you click on the drop-down menu for wrap-up, and you pick your wrap-up code. This also helps us understand the types of calls that we get, when we get the calls, and what we can be prepared for moving forward. use your best judgment on which type of call it was. We've picked the most common categories, whether it's donations, someone who needs assistance, whatever it might be. Use your best judgment on that. Don't pull all your hair out trying to figure out which one to click. In order to make a call, you have to sit first. You're starting available, right? Because we're ready to get a call. Or you say, oh, wait a minute. No, I need to make a call. So you switch to idle, and then you select that idle state, make outbound call. You then insert the number you're wishing to call in the call out field. And then you click the yellow bell with the green arrow to dial that number. The biggest difference between Transera and anything else that you're used to with answering phones is that Transera, remember we talked about that gate agent? That gate agent says, oh, Luke wants to make a call because it knows I'm in Transera, and Transera knows everything I do with my phone in terms of making calls in the system. The gate agent says, oh, Luke wants to make a call. So what Transera does is it calls me, and I see my phone ring, and I answer it. Normally, it doesn't happen that way. I just dial the number and my phone, it rings out as opposed to ringing in. Well, first my phone rings in, so it rings real loud, I answer it. There's nobody on the other line yet. The gate agent says, great, I just got Luke. Now, who does he want to call? Oh, he wants to call Susan. Okay, so Transera then, the gate agent then calls Susan. So my phone, when I answer it, my phone keeps ringing. And then Susan picks up. As soon as Susan picks up, the status moves from out dial reserved, which means that my phone is still ringing, to connected, which means that I can now talk with Susan and she's on the phone. Let's go to placing a call on hold. To put a call on hold, first you have to be connected. So I'm connected, but I need to put them on hold because I got to go look something up or I got to consult someone. I click the pause button down at the bottom of my screen. And then it will say call on hold. Once I'm ready to resume the call, I click the play button and it resumes the call. Transferring calls. In order to transfer a call, first I have to be connected. Once I'm connected, I can put the call on hold, and then I'm either going to pick agent, queue, or DN, which means I'm going to transfer the call to an agent. I'm going to transfer the call to a queue, and the only other queue you could transfer to would be DD main, and that's my team of disaster dispatchers. So you could do that if you need to, or you could do DN. DN is that's a dial number, so that's another 10-digit number. If somebody says, oh, I was trying to reach this number, well, you could actually transfer that call to them. Once you then pick the button and you're ready to transfer, you click the blue squiggly arrow, which transfers the call, and then you move into wrap up. Now we're going to do conferencing calls. So think about when you need to do that consultation on a suicidal or a crisis caller, or you need to do an interpretation. Or if you want help from another agent, if you need to call me in or somebody, what you do is first you're connected, then you select DN to consult outside of call agents. If you need to call the interpretation service or the suicide hotline, if you need to consult an agent, or you can even put in my phone number here for DN if you need to pull me into a call. Or if you've got another, you either click Q or put in the DN, or you pick a specific agent. And then you click the orange person icon. That's conference or consult requested. So that will bring them on board. Then I'm consulting the person. So let's say I'm the call agent and I need to consult Ken. Ken's my man. He's going to help me out. So I'm going to either go to an agent and select Ken, but Ken has to be available for me to consult him. He can't be on the phone. I could go to Q and I could pick one of my experienced disaster dispatchers who do this all day, every day. Or I could put in a phone number of somebody. I'm going to click consult. All right, great. Now I'm talking to Ken. So I put in Ken's number. I'm going to call Ken. I'm talking to Ken only right now. So I'm saying, hey, Ken, I got a question. Can you help me out? Ken says, sure, be happy to. So then I'm going to click the conference button here. So I'm now bringing the two people together, and I'm conference. So now you see how there's two phones. That means three of us are all on the phone together. So we're conference, and it's me, Ken, and the caller. Or it's me, the interpreter, and the caller. Or me, the suicide crisis hotline person, and the caller. If I need to leave the call, and it's just going to be the two of them and they're handling it, maybe Ken's the one for this call and he's got it, I would click the transfer button. So then it sends the caller off to Ken, I'm off the phone, and I go into wrap up. Otherwise, I stay in the conference. When the call is done, somebody hangs up. We all hang up, and the call ends, and then I go into wrap up state. The last thing with Transera is logging out. You go available. It's the end of your shift. First, you go to idle. Then I select end of shift in my idle pop-up. And then I click on the red circle. I've got to click on the red circle to log me out. So you have to be idle to log out, then I click on the red circle. You notice if you're available, you can't log out. See how it's grayed out? So you've got to go to idle, then you go to end of shift, and then you click the red circle. So SharePoint. What is SharePoint? SharePoint is your one-stop shop for capturing calls, as well as your resource for all call center information. SharePoint doesn't really work well in Firefox. I know some people where it has worked, but I recommend Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Safari. To get to the SharePoint, your website is https://sp.redcross.org/sites, sites/hs, as in humanitarian services, /call center. So that's https://sp.redcross.org/sites/hs/call center. When you get there, there's going to be three tabs that you need to have open. This is a really cool trick. On the left-hand side of the SharePoint screen, you're going to see lists. And in the list, you'll see call log, call center wiki, incident action plan. If you click on these three links, while holding the control button, it opens each of those links in a new tab on your browser. Each of these pages has its own unique URL or web page. The call log has one, the wiki has one, and the incident action plan has one. However, the easiest way to do it is you bookmark that high-level web page, sp.redcross.org/sites/hs/call center, and then you click into each of the three tabs. But once you have them open, you could bookmark those so that you can get to them easily. So we have the call log, and it's the DRO call log. And the idea here is that this is where you go to capture every call. This is our database for capturing the calls. In order to capture a new call, what you do is you go up at the top to List Tools. Under List Tools, click Items. Once you've clicked Items, click on New Item. When you click on New Item, a pop-up shows. And that pop-up has a call log. Looking at the call log, it will show you all of the fields that you need to fill out. You're going to have the caller's name, their phone number, the type of call, have they been in touch with the Red Cross before. Where you see a red asterisk, that is a required field. If it is not required, then you don't have to fill it out. But we ask that you fill out as much as possible, realizing that most of these fields are designed around a caller who needs assistance. If someone is offering services or they have an information or referral question, you can capture pretty basic information, their name, their phone number, what it is they're giving, or what, the type of question that they have, and you can call it a day. But for a caller who needs help, we want to capture as many of these fields as possible. We also have in SharePoint the Wiki resource page, the call center wiki. The wiki is a place where my team, where our call center management team, goes in and updates real-time, up-to-date information for the operation. You will see the date and a timestamp, as well as the name of the person who made the update. The wiki is constantly changing. It changes several times a day. But the reason we have this here is so that you don't have to receive emails with a whole bunch of new files and keeping track of times of things and new resources and changing resources. The wiki is a one-stop shop. And all you have to do is have it up, open, read it, understand it, and then use that as a resource when calls come in. The incident action plan. I need to update today's IAP. They sent it in very, very late last night. The incident action plan, we will have a place that says which pages to focus on. And the incident action plan, when you click on it, it will open a PDF in your computer browser. And you can scroll through that to get operational updates and information right then and there. Red Cross. Many of the phone numbers that you will see in the incident action plan or the wiki are for internal. Your login is your full redcross.org email. So mine is luke.beck. Assume if you see a phone number and my password, assume that that phone number is internal and not for public dissemination, unless you read or see otherwise. On that front, if you have an urgent question or you need information about something that is more up to date, we do not want you going ahead and calling different people in the operation. We have a single point of contact on the operation. That point of contact's name is listed in the wiki. We ask that first you come to me. The best way to reach me is via email. That you come to me with the question. I will then forward that to the operation and get an answer for you. If you cannot reach me, if it's time sensitive, if I'm not responsive enough, if I'm busy, whatever it is, you can go and reach out to our operational point of contact. That's the process I follow, but we've asked that folks come to me first, and then I go to the operational point of contact. If you can't reach me, then you can go to the operational point of contact directly. The IAP, Incident Action Plan, will talk about key service delivery objectives, priorities, different sites, our tactics, how we move and conduct the operation. So within the IAP, you will see, for example, key sites, client shelters, casework areas, information referrals, service centers. You can also scroll down at the bottom, and again, we're highlighting these pages for you. It talks about work sites, and this is probably the most important thing that you will see in the Incident Action Plan, which is you have the site name, the address, the county, what services are being provided at that site, as well as the hours of operation for that site. We're trying to take the information out of the Incident Action Plan that you need at your fingertips and put that right up at the top of the wiki. Starting your shift. You've got your Red Cross email. For those of you who don't have it, we have requested emails, and we will send you the email as soon as you need it, or as soon as it's available. You should then have these following tabs open. So we've got the call center, we've got our wiki, our call log, and our Incident Action Plan. We also have, you can have Google Crisis Map up. That can show our active shelters and help you do a map search to figure out where someone's calling from and which shelter might be closest. We also recommend having 211search.org open on your computer. It's a way to look up local resources that may be outside of the Red Cross spectrum. And then you have Transera. So once you have those things up, that's your operating environment. That's your command center, and then you're ready to go. So with that, congratulations. You made it to the end of the call center training. We hope that you feel comfortable navigating SharePoint and logging calls, using Transera to answer calls and place calls, understanding different types of calls that you might receive. We really do appreciate and I mean this from all levels of the organization, from your chapter to the region to the division to national headquarters and even our clients. We've had some really good feedback from clients who feel empowered when they get off of the phone call. They have information that they can act on that helps get them back on their feet and move forward, and that's all thanks to you guys. So whether you're available for a couple hours or for a full week, we thank you for your time and your service. So thank you all for being on, and we'll talk to you soon.